Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. The hour of 9:45 having arrived, I'd like to call the Kane County Board meeting of April 9th, 2019 to order. Our clerk will call the roll.
Allen. Barrero. Davis. Raz. Hanson. Hernandez. Hoshite. Iqbal. Kenyon. Caius. Kofi. Leonard. Lewis. Martin. Molina. Sanchez. Shefflo. Silva. Sarrett. Surgis. Thomas. Weber. Wegman. Winicki.
Okay, we have a quorum. I'd like to ask everybody to please turn off cell phones to avoid any distractions over the next hour and a half. I'd like to ask Sharon Chin, our new receptionist recording secretary, to come to the microphone to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Sharon?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, and if you'd remain standing, please. Now I'd like to ask Mazur Ahmed and her husband Hamid to come to the microphone and lead us in prayer. And I'd like to do a little introduction. Mazur and Hamid must be the first family of Kane County employees, because between them, they have 76 years of service to the county. So Mazur has worked here for 32 years and Hamid for 44 years.
Thank you.
I'd like to put just a little in perspective in an introduction. The person who's going to be leading us in prayer this morning is a founding member of the Council of Parliament of World Religions. She's the co-chair and trustee emeritus of Council of Parliament and World Religions, Fox Valley Muslim Community Center co-founder, Batavia Islamic Center co-founder, as well as Director Emeritus of Global Peace Works, and then many others. Ms. Mazur Ahmed was born in Hyderabad, raised and educated in Bombay, India, and now lives in the United States since 1972. An architect by trade, she has helped design mosques, churches, and Buddhist temple. Mazur believes that people are joined together in their common humanity and all are worthy of respect and dignity. She's been a presenter at the Theosophical Society twice a year, Interfaith Iftar, which is breaking fast in the month of Ramadan, for 20 years. Mazur believes that interreligious work is essentially about breaking down barriers and building bridges. There's just a bit of what I consider like background poetry, wisdom and progress in Ms. Ahmed's life. As an architect, I learned form follows function. As a cartographer, a line has direction. From college to workplace, the lines have defined me. Lines are the integral part of both professions. In 1987, when I joined Kane County Mapping Department, it all started with paper and pencil, and then moved to the Intergraph's graphic workstation, to macro stations, to ArcGIS, and evolution still in progress. In a day's work as CAD coordinator, I lead my CAD team through updating and editing the database with subdivisions, annexation, division, court case realignment, and research. 76 years of joint service. It's also true that their children are highly competent people, good fruit from good trees.
Thank you. Good morning, and peace be with you all. What I am reciting is the first chapter of the Quran, which we recite in every prayer. We pray 5 times a day. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Maliki yawmiddin. Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'in. Ihdina siratal mustaqim. Siratal lazina an'amta alayhim. Ghairil maghdubi alayhim waladdallin. The translation is, in the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful. All praises are to God, the Lord of the universe, the most beneficent, the most merciful, the owner of the day of judgment. You alone we worship, you alone we seek help from. Guide us to the straight path, the path of those on whom you have bestowed your grace, not the way of those who have earned thy anger and have gone astray. Ya ayyuhan nasu inna khalaqnakum min zikri wa unsa wa ja'alnakum shu'uban wa qabaila lita'arifu inna akramakum indallahi ashaqakum innallaha alimul khabir. Chapter 49, verse 13. O mankind, we created you from a single pair of a male and a female and made you into nations and tribes that you may know each other, not that you may despise each other. Verily, the most honor of you in the sight of Allah, God, is he who is the most righteous of you. And God has full knowledge and is well acquainted with all the things. This Quranic assertion is about the oneness of humanity. The Quran does not want a person to cancel one's identity by birth, but wants the identity to enhance inclusiveness rather than exclusiveness. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Amen. Thank you very much. Please be seated. Approval of the minutes. May I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes from March 12th and the 21st, 2019? So moved by Mr. Frost, second by Dr. Iqbal. Any changes, adjustments, questions? If not, all those in favor of approving the minutes say aye. Those opposed, nay. Ayes have it. I don't believe that we have speakers outside of the zoning petitions today. So I'd like to ask our Development Committee Chairman, John Martin, to rise, discuss, and make motion to approve the zoning petitions on today's agenda. So, oh, excuse me. Oh, I am so sorry. Oh, Charlene, you know, I was thinking that you were going to be here last month. My mistake. You are so welcome. Come on forward. My error. Please forgive me.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for having me and other members of the board. Let me begin by apologizing. I was on the agenda last month. For those who are board members who know me, I am a planner, and I planned 2 months ahead to join you. And the person in the office said, we're not used to people planning this soon in advance, so please accept my apologies. I planned on being here today, not last month. I'm excited to be here to share information with you about Illinois' Distracted Driving Awareness Week. Here in Illinois, the Illinois Chiefs of Police have the 4th week in April be Distracted Driving Awareness Week. Overall, April is National Distracted Driving Awareness Month. How many board members and audience members know that? Well, now you all do, right? So Distracted Driving Awareness Week is April 21st through the 27th. This is a statewide campaign that we initiated with the Illinois Chiefs of the Police. Last year, we had nearly 25,000 citations and warnings issued in 1 week throughout the state of Illinois. We also tracked people who were taken off the road for arrests who were one person in Galesburg was about to deliver heroin, and she was taken off the road. So 1,143 people were taken off the road during Distracted Driving Awareness Week. So why is this important to you as county board members? Well, you guys are lucky. You are the chosen county. In Illinois, there are 23 counties that account for 68.9% of all the fatalities. Kane County is one of those 23 counties. Kane County is also a strong county that does a lot of amazing things, as you all are aware of that. On April 26th, we are going to be initiating a Hive campaign. If you're not in law enforcement, you don't know what a Hive campaign is. Let me share what it is with you. The Kane County Hive Visibility Enforcement Campaign Partnership is a data-driven approach to reducing deaths and injuries due to crashes on roadways throughout Kane County. Law enforcement agencies will deploy the Hive campaign on April 26, 2019. Officers will be visible during all aspects of the deployment, ideally flooding areas and gaining attention of traveling motorists, inducing them to drive safely. All deployments are publicized in advance of the Hive, so motorists are aware of the elevated police presence and enforcement. All data is captured and then studied to measure effectiveness of the campaign. Informing the community of the Hive visibility enforcement is a critical component of Hive. The campaign will combine Hive visibility enforcement and proactive law enforcement to create deterrence and change unsafe road behaviors. The campaign will also integrate a multi-tiered educational campaign with local, county, and state agencies, along with emergency medical service providers and community partners. Together, we are going to lower fatalities in Kane County. This came about because I was having a conversation with Lieutenant Williams from the Kane County Sheriff's Office. We had a meeting with Sheriff Kane, which then turned into us meeting with the state's attorney. Thank you. He's also part of the campaign. The 2 trauma hospitals are part of the campaign. The Kane County Health Department is part of the campaign. The KDOT is part of the campaign. We have non-for-profits who are going to be educating. Deputy Kaus from the Kane County Sheriff's Office also has been talking so highly about this. DeKalb County wanted it on board, but I said, no, you can't get on board yet. We're having this be a model in Kane first. So they are going to be participating in the campaign for motorists coming into the county. I share this all with you because it's important to me as a former resident of Kane County because my dad was killed by a distracted driver. My dad's birthday actually is April 26th, and the Hive Committee decided to have that be the date. We are going to measure this information, and we're going to celebrate my dad's life, and we're going to educate the community about how to be safe on the roads. I often get asked, is there an app, Charlene, on our phone to turn off while we drive? I have to tell you guys all, there's this button called an off button. It can be turned off very easily. Apply your finger. But for those of you who don't know how to do that, I've given everybody a gift. And for the county board members, I understand because you can't get gifts. This is only $2, so you're good to go. It's not $100, we're okay. So what you do is you take your phone, you open it up, and then you put your phone in it and close it. What happens is any frequency that comes to your phone will not go through to your phone. And then when you arrive at your destination safely, you take your phone out, and then you can get all your messages and all your important emails from your county board members. So I'd like to thank you for your time, and I would encourage you to share with your constituents any way that you can through your communication strategies that you have, that in Illinois, we have Distracted Driving Awareness Week, the 4th week in April, and in Kane County, there will be a Hive campaign to help keep your constituents safe and have them get home alive. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Charlene. And thank you very much, Mr. Kenyon. I'm going to take you everywhere. Good. Good. Now I'd like to ask Development Committee Chairman John Martin to rise, discuss, and make motion to approve the zoning petition on today's agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The first petition before us today is petition 4450. It's in Caneville Township. It's part of the Kuiper series of petitions that we will see before us today on property on Watson Road. The proposal is that the property be rezoned from F District Farming to F2 District Agriculture-related sales, service processing, research, warehouse, and marketing with a special use for cidery, bakery, and venue for social events. It conforms to the 2040 plan. There were neighboring property owners. I believe that significant portions, if not all portions of objections have been addressed during the process. The recommendation, there was no recommendation from the Regional Plan Commission. The zoning board, due to a shortage in people in attendance, made no recommendation, but the development committee did vote to approve. I move that and request a second. Mr. Fries, seconds. Any comments or questions? Mr. Fries.
Thank you. I'd just like to introduce the makers of Wade, Will, and Joe, the whole generation of the farm there, already their hands and say hello. The Kuiper operation is one of the more fun
Any further comments or questions? All in favor of this motion's approval signify by saying aye. I only goof this up once a month. Would you please call the roll?
Sure. Allen. Ferrero. Yes. Davist.
Yes.
Fraz.
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes.
Hoshite.
Yes.
Iqbal.
Yes.
Kenyon.
Yes.
Caius.
Yes.
Kopi.
Yes.
Leonard.
Yes.
Lewis. Martin.
Yes.
Molina. Sanchez.
Yes.
Shefflo.
Yes.
Silva. Starrett. Surges.
Yes.
Thomas. Weber.
Yes.
Wegman. Winnicki. That passes.
Motion carries. Second petition is number 4451. It also involves the Kuiper property. The proposal is a rezoning from F District Farming to F1 District Rural Residential to enable continued use of the house on the property. The zoning board voted to approve, as did the development committee. This morning, stormwater management asked that I read into the record and include as part of the proposal this text that I will read to you now. Article 2, Requirements for Stormwater Management, Section 9-26, Part B, Point 1, states that if two or more one or two family residences are to be constructed on a site 3 or more acres in size, the development must provide site runoff storage, stormwater detention. Therefore, a stormwater permit will be required and stormwater detention provided for the proposed improvements outlined in this petition. The Kane County GIS indicates the potential for wetlands, indicates the potential for wetlands. A wetland delineation will be required if any of these areas are to be impacted by the development. The parcel contains floodplain. The construction of the homes, including the depth of basements and lowest opening of the structures, may be limited by the HWL and the BFE of the floodplain, as well as any groundwater table restrictions. It is understood that there is detention on site. If this detention is not adequate for the proposed improvements, then more detention volume will be required to be constructed, which may be possible to achieve by expansion of existing stormwater facilities or construction of new facilities. If the 3 lots share an access, the lots may be required to go through the subdivision process. So that is an adjunct to the petition and the recommendations. I move their approval and request a second. Mr. Fries seconds. Any comments or questions? Would the clerk please call the roll?
Allen. Ferrero. Davist.
Yes.
Fraz.
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes.
Hoshite.
Yes.
Iqbal.
Yes.
Kenyon.
Yes.
Caius.
Yes.
Kopi.
Yes.
Leonard.
Yes.
Lewis. Martin.
Yes.
Molina. Sanchez.
Yes.
Shefflo.
Yes.
Silva. Starrett. Surges.
Yes.
Thomas. Weber.
Yes.
Wegman. Winnicki. That passes.
Motion carries. The third petition is in Aurora Township, number 4491. It's the petitioner is Carlos Esparza. Its location is on Baseline Road, Section 31 in Aurora Township. The proposed use is requested in the B3 district for outstore is a special use for outdoor storage of vehicles, equipment for trucking businesses. It's consistent with the 2040 plan. There were questions raised by adjoining property owners. The zoning board approved with the stipulation that an easement be recommended by the Village of Montgomery, that an easement recommended by the village be recorded prior to the April 29 Kane County Board meeting, and that the petitioner apply for all required building permits within 60 days of the Kane County vote. The Development Committee voted to approve. I move it. May I please have a second? Mr. Sanchez seconds. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Ellen. Ferrero. Davist.
Yes.
Fraz. Hanson. Hoshite. Iqbal. Kenyon. Caius. Kopi. Leonard. Lewis. Martin.
Yes.
Molina. Sanchez. Shefflo. Silva. Starrett. Surges. Thomas. Weber. Wegman. Winnicki. Winnicki. Passes.
Motion carries. The next petition is number 4492. It's in Hampshire Township. It's filed in the name of Ponce Lawn Service. It's on Lenshaw Road. The request is that we rezone a portion of the property from E1 District Estate Residential to F District Farming with a 5-year interim special use to bring an existing landscaping business into conformance with the zoning ordinance. It's consistent with the 24 plan. There were no recommendations from the Regional Plan Commission. The Zoning Board approved, as did the Development Committee. I move its adoption, its passage, and request a second. Mr. Sanchez seconds. We have comments or questions? Hearing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Allen. Ferrero. Yes. Davis. Yes. Franz. Yes. Hanson. Yes. Hoshite. Yes. Iqbal. Yes. Kenyon. Yes. Caius. Yes. Hopi. Yes. Leonard. Yes. Lewis. Yes. Martin.
Yes.
Molina. Yes. Sanchez. Yes. Shefflo. Yes. Silva. Yes. Sterrett. Yes. Surges. Yes. Thomas. Yes. Weber. Yes. Wegman. Yes. Winnicke. Yes. Passes.
Motion carries. The next petition is in Camden Township. It's number 4494. It's filed on behalf of the Biddle Trust. The proposal is that we amend the zoning ordinance to change this from F District Farming to F1 District Rural Residential. There were no objectors. There have been approvals by all reviewing boards. May I please have a motion? Mr. Kenyon moves. Mr. Frost seconds. I'm sorry. Withdraw that, please, so Ms. Winnicke can move. Ms. Winnicke moves. Mr. Frost seconds. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Allen. Ferrero. Yes. Davis. Yes. Franz. Yes. Hanson. Yes. Hoshite. Yes. Iqbal. Yes. Kenyon. Yes. Caius. Yes. Hopi. Yes. Leonard. Yes. Lewis. Yes. Martin.
Yes.
Molina. Yes. Sanchez.
Yes.
Shefflo. Yes. Silva. Yes. Sterrett. Yes. Surges. Yes. Thomas. Yes. Weber.
Yes.
Wegman. Yes. Winnicke. Yes. Passes.
Motion carries. The final petition is number 4496. It's the third of the Kuipers petitions that we're hearing this morning. The proposal is that we rezone the subject property from F District Farming to F2 District, agricultural-related sales, service, processing, research, warehouse, and marketing with a special use for an agri-environmental educational village. It's consistent with the 24 plan. There were no objectors, and there were approvals by all of the reviewing bodies. Mr. Franz moves. May I have a second, please? Mr. Iqbal. Any comments or questions?
Oh, thanks.
Hearing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Allen. Ferrero. Yes. Davis.
Yes.
Franz.
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes.
Hoshite.
Yes.
Iqbal.
Yes.
Kenyon.
Yes.
Caius.
Yes.
Hopi. Leonard. Lewis. Martin.
Yes.
Molina. Sanchez.
Yes.
Shefflo.
Yes.
Silva. Yes. Sterrett. Yes. Surges.
Yes.
Thomas. Yes. Weber.
Yes.
Wegman. Yes. Winnicke. Yes. Passes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Next on our agenda is the consent agenda. Would anyone like to remove an item from the consent agenda? Mr. Shefflo?
19-122.
Okay, Mr. Shefflo, 19-122. Any others? Okay, if not, I'd like to ask for a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda with the exception of 19-122. So moved by Dr. Iqbal, second by Ms. Allen. Clerk, call the roll.
Allen. Ferrero. Yes. Davis.
Yes.
Franz.
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes.
Hoshite.
Yes.
Iqbal.
Yes.
Kenyon.
Yes.
Caius.
Yes.
Hopi. Leonard. Lewis. Martin.
Yes.
Molina. Sanchez.
Yes.
Shefflo.
Yes.
Silva? Yes. Sterrett? Yes. Surges? Yes. Thomas? Yes. Weber?
Yes.
Wegman? Yes. Winnicki? Yes. Passes.
Okay, the consent agenda passes. Now, may I have a motion and a second to discuss and potentially pass 19-122? So moved by Mr. Fraz, second by Dr. Iqbal. And then, Mr. Sanchez, this is something that you've spoken in favor of at, or would you like to lead out with, okay, Mr. Shefflow?
Thank you. So this is a resolution supporting a new tax. With that tax comes new programs that are being authorized by the state or funded. There's going to be enforcement costs by the state, so that's going to be increased employees to try to administer that tax. The goals are laudable. We don't like litter. We don't like the unnecessary use of plastics and so forth. In terms of Springfield, I think they need to focus on solving their problems, paying nursing homes 18 months late, and things of that nature, not creating new taxes. And I would rather have a voluntary program, right? Aldi's currently has a program. You go there, you buy your bag for 10 cents. They pay income tax on that 10 cents to the state, and it's all voluntary. I want everybody to know that my wife and I recycle our Jewel bags back to Jewel and the other bags that we collect. Been doing that for several years. So it's a voluntary program. Every one of us can already engage in the recycling. Litter is a problem. I have not studied this law. I've just studied the resolution that our legislative committee has come up with. So I don't think it's a anti-litter. They're not raising the revenue for anti-litter. All of us can pick up around our yards. The KDOT has a program to clean up the litter on the side of the roads and things of that nature. I'm also noticing that one of the places I shop primarily is Walgreens. They now ask. They say, you need a bag, so if you're buying a pack of gum, they don't need you to put that in a bag anymore. They're starting to ask. So there's a culture, I think, that's going to change in terms of our grocery stores to help solve the problem. So for that reason, I'm going to be voting no.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Are there other comments, questions? Let's see, I think Mr. Hansen's hand was up first, then we'll go to Mr. Sanchez. Mr. Hansen.
Thank you. Good morning. I will be voting to support this. I am on the legislative committee with Sheriff Kane. This is a voluntary
Sorry.
utilize the plastic bag. The bill, I don't know if you read it in its entirety. I don't know what enforcement costs you're talking about, creating new programs or even looking at tax. The county in Chicago is reducing the usage of plastic bags. That is a voluntary choice that someone has to shop and use a takeout bags and more plastic. If you bring one along, there's no charge. If you bring along one of these, it's a little fancier, there's no charge. Should you like to use a brown paper bag, there are all these limits here in the try out, no charge. If you bring a plastic bag, you already use tax, no charge. Should you go to one of the membership shopping places, the box, no charge. The 7 cents that is a part of Senate Bill, Bill 40, that would go to the county. It's earmarked for those programs that currently Kane County kind of being unfunded. And we find ways to support those recycling programs. We find ways to fund those. The funds that now be freed up for other things, for programs, and also fund, which is shrinking as we went along. So a lot of reasons to support this. I would be opposed to it, the ban plastic bags. We're not forcing people to not. We're not forcing people to use. But it should do that. Okay, 7 cents, 3 cents of
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hansen. Mr. Sanchez?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would just like to highlight for everyone that's voting on this today that this really isn't about supporting the bag tax bill. Our intent is to give us a little ammunition when we speak with legislators in Springfield to make sure that the counties get a little cut of this bill that we are all pretty certain is going to pass without our support. So what we're doing here today is just giving us a little ammunition to say we want to make sure the counties are included in this because that money will come in, and we've estimated about $700,000 a year would come in from the county being included in this bill. So I appreciate Doug's disagreement with the bill on its face as far as the one down in Springfield. But the one before you today, the resolution before you today, is about just making sure we get our cut of that thing that is going to happen in Springfield anyway. Thank you.
Okay, any other thoughts or comments? Ms. Thomas?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The plastic bag user fee is an idea that I actually presented when I first came to the board, and I went so far as to engage in discussions and meetings with our recycling coordinator to figure out if Kane County could take the lead in perhaps entering a governmental agreement with Aurora and Elgin to implement a fee which would allow us to maintain control of where those funds go. So I'm very happy that the legislature is moving on this. I just want to say we need to be very careful in the use of our language. It is a user fee. And as my colleague, Mr. Hansen, has so rightly demonstrated, we have control over, if this is to pass, we have control over whether or not we pay that fee. This is just a matter of becoming more disciplined in using our cloth bags, our boxes, our paper bag, or plastic bag we already have. And just in the way of track record, in Montgomery County, Maryland, and in other cities, counties and cities across the country, they've had user fees like this for quite a while. In Montgomery County, Maryland, they've had it, I think, going on 6 years. In the first 5 years, they generated more than $5 million. And so another important point is that if we get revenue for our household waste management and other environmental programs, that frees up funds currently going to our environmental programs from the riverboat, I believe, frees up those funds to go somewhere else. So I'm very glad that we are in support of this legislation.
Okay, I believe Ms. Barrero, your hand was up? No? Okay. Any other? Dr. Silva.
Thank you. I took an informal poll of your constituents in District 7, and of the 10 or so people that I requested opinions from, I would say 6 were yes, absolutely. And I would say 2 were a soft yes, 1 was a hard no. One of the things that I identified was that I think people don't understand the things that have just been explained. I did the best I could to explain it to them. The other question that came up was the thought that the retailer receives 2 cents. The retailer receives 2 cents to pick up costs. And what the constituents are wondering is this already not built into the prices of the goods that they're purchasing? So are they receiving an additional 2 cents on top of what they're getting? And you may not have the answer. None of us may have the answer yet, but I wanted to make you aware that people are wondering about that. So essentially, they feel that they would be paying Walmart twice for that charge that's already being built in. But again, overwhelmingly, it was a yes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Silva. Any other comments? If not, clerk, call the roll.
Allen? Aye. Barrero? Yes. Davis? No. Fries? Yes. Hansen? Yes. O'Shea? Yes. Iqbal? Yes. Kenyon? Yes. Caius? Yes. Hopi? No. Leonard? Yes. Lewis? Yes. Martin? Yes. Molina? Sanchez? Yes. Dufflo? No. Silva? Yes. Sterrett? Yes. Sturgis? No. Thomas? Yes. Weber? Yes. Wegman? Yes. Winnicki? Yes. Passes.
Motion passes. Thank you very much. Now we have several items that are on off consent agenda. May I have a motion and a second to approve number 19-133, our discussion potential action of contracts for group health insurance and prescription medication coverage. So moved by Mr. Surgis, second by Ms. Wojnicki. Any thoughts or comments? Okay. If not, I would just like to make a final comment. This has been recommended by the board as a whole, and we have those meetings just to come to conclusions when we can go through everything. I would just like to share a perspective, and I have just a couple of questions, but perspective. Could you put up number one? My perception of the discussion the other day was that coverage was very important. People being able to use the same physicians, and I recognize how important that is. So as I look at it in general, I'm not saying that this is, my perception is an exhaustive kind of thing, but just the quick pieces of what I was listening to was, it's about the difference between, it was 93.42% at the next closest competitor coverage. This is the remainder. Several of the pieces that we will be paying for that coverage, at least indirectly, is $500,000 more in expected cost. We do have a potential if several series of bad things happen with the health of our employees. The maximum potential cost, unlikely, but still, we're on the line for this, is $4 million. The next closest competitor offered between $225,000 and $655,000 more in wellness incentives. There is significant prescription disruption, and with Blue Cross Blue Shield, unfortunately, we don't have a complete data availability. 60%, I think that it was in the HMO. We don't have access to that information. So if you can take that down. Just a quick question, and these are routine kind of questions, but on this, the resolution says that this contract goes from July 1st through 2019, or from July 1st, 2019 to June 30th of 2020. Are there any circumstances where this would, are there any circumstances where the contract can be terminated? Or is this an annual requirement? Is it an annual contract? Does anybody know the answer to that question? Mr. Surgis, could you rise and...
My understanding is this can be terminated. And I only bring that up in an alignment perspective, which was one of our ancillary goals.
Okay.
So not that we're trying to switch carriers or anything like that, but we do have an alignment situation that we're going to try and correct as we go along.
Okay. There was a hesitation. There will always be a hesitation from now on my part to take a look at things that could happen that we would not be satisfied with. In this, the resolution does say for a period of time, from July 1st to June 30th. I don't know if now contracts that we negotiate need to be aligned with what Cliff was saying, but the term of the contract is important. So, Mr. Shefflow, if you can shine some light on it.
Well, I wish I had an answer, but I have a question. I thought one of our objectives was to get off that July 1 renewal date and get on, I don't know whether it was a December 31 renewal or whether it was a fiscal year renewal, but have we given up on that, or?
No, he just said
so
that
that's what we're work that out over the next course of the next year?
Yes.
Oh.
That's the goal.
Okay, so the question, and I guess it would be for the Civil Division of the State's Attorney's Office, is will we be able to do what the board's general intention is, at least in that alignment of years? Will that be possible? Mr. McMahon?
If that's what the board would like us to work on, we'll work on that. I can't sit here right now and tell you whether the other half of that contract is going to agree to change the term, but if that's the desire of the board, we'll engage in those discussions with Blue Cross Blue Shield. Whether they'll agree to that is a different issue.
Okay, so will we need an amendment to just adjust this, or maybe there's clarification that I'm not seeing at this point? Mr. Surgis, would you rise, and then Mr. Leonard?
I don't want to confuse the contract with IPBC.
Oh,
that
no.
we were trying to get out of with the policy language. I'm not aware of a carrier that offers less than an annual policy. That doesn't mean that we can't break it through a realignment. So I don't want to confuse those two concepts.
Yes, and you are so right. We don't either. So, Mr. Leonard?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to point out on group health insurance, that is a month-by-month contract. In other words, what they're guaranteeing right now is a 12-month rate guarantee. But it doesn't mean we can't leave that contract at any time. I guess my question for the state's attorney is, Mr. McMahon, should we amend this resolution to say we're renewing with Blue Cross and Blue Shield effective July 1, 2019, and not put an end date on it?
I'm reviewing the resolution here this morning. No, there's no need to amend the resolution.
So it's fine as is, and like you said, if we want to amend, we can.
Well, if you want to amend the term of the agreement with Blue Cross Blue Shield, there's a two-sided agreement here. I can't sit here and tell you that the other side is in. There are notice provisions to withdraw from an agreement. There's a lot of steps that are necessary before one party unilaterally tries to cancel the term of an agreement. That's the best answer I can give you.
All right.
It is just a clarification of my line of the question here is we've clearly, the intent of the board is clearly to select the next provider is Blue Cross Blue Shield, no question about that. Just in the mechanics of it, I want to make sure that I'm not executing something that is somehow not entirely in writing consistent with the desire of the board. Ms. Barrero?
I'm sorry, but I think we all voted yes for Blue Cross Blue Shield. It was obvious at the last special meeting. We've had 2 special meetings on this subject. And I think this is a feeble last attempt to try and change the minds again of the board. I think we should just go ahead with our contract and keep going as we had already voted on. I would advise everyone to think clearly on any type of re-engaging on contracts. We already know all the issues we've gone into it, that we all understood it. It's very obvious what this attempt is all about, so that's what I have to say.
Thank you, Ms. Barrero. Any other thoughts or comments? Mr. Hanson?
Thank you to the State's Attorney's Office for providing these resolutions in the past.
Yes, and it is a matter that we're just clarifying now what's in this resolution as far as what the work has been in committees and conversation has been. Just want to have clarification. Okay, any other thoughts or comments? Let's see, the state's attorney has said that there's no need to amend this motion, and I'm assuming that that's within keeping with efforts that are in progress to align dates properly on our medical. Is that for the record, is that okay?
The dates that are in the resolution, Chairman Lausen, are the dates that were provided by the Director of Human Services. So I've answered the question. The resolution does not need to be amended.
Call the question.
Okay, the chair needs clarification on this point. We are not doing anything to frustrate the selection of which carrier. Most of us are aware that we're trying to line our coverages so that we optimize it for the constituents rather than, for the insurance companies, and we want it for our employees. So you haven't been recognized, Ms. Barrero? You haven't been recognized to speak, please.
Chairman, what's the call for question? Is there a discussion after that?
No.
Okay. Well, later on, when there's confusion, remember this moment, please. Okay, clerk, call the roll. Sorry.
Allen? Guerrero?
Yes.
Davis?
Yes.
Franz?
Yes.
Hanson?
Yes.
Hoshait?
Yes.
Iqbal?
Yes.
Kenyon?
Yes.
Caius?
Yes.
Kopi?
Yes.
Leonard?
Yes.
Lewis? Okay. Martin?
Yes.
Molina? Sanchez?
Yes.
Shefflo?
Yes.
Silva?
Yes.
Starrett?
Yes.
Surgis?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Weber?
Yes.
Wegman?
Yes.
Winicky?
Yes.
Passes.
Okay. Next on the agenda, may I have a motion and a second to approve number 19134? So moved by Mr. Surgis, second by Mr. Sanchez. Any thoughts or comments? Again, just clarification of the term. This resolution says that the term of this agreement is for 2.5 years. Is that what the intention of the board is? Is that? Thank you, Mr. Surgis.
In this particular case, this carrier has just been wonderful to work with and has matched what we've had in the past and is willing to give us a multi-year lock on the rates. This is wonderful.
Okay. To our advantage. Thank you.
Yes.
And thank you for that clarification. Any other thoughts or comments? If not, clerk, call the roll.
Ellen? Guerrero?
Yes.
Davis?
Yes.
Franz?
Yes.
Hanson? Hoshait?
Yes.
Iqbal?
Yes.
Kenyon?
Yes.
Caius?
Yes.
Kopi? Leonard? Lewis?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Molina? Sanchez?
Yes.
Shefflo?
Yes.
Silva?
Yes.
Starrett?
Yes.
Surgis? Thomas?
Yes.
Weber?
Yes.
Wegman? Winicky?
Yes.
Passes.
Okay, motion passes. May I have a motion and a second to approve number 19135? So moved by Mr. Surgis, second by Mr. Davis. Any thoughts or comments? Okay. Again, for clarification purposes, the resolution states that, the King County Board, the chairman thereof is authorized to execute a contract with an employment assistance program provider for the provision of professional employee assistance services at a cost not to exceed $15,000. And is there an understanding for what period of time this is in the drafting of the resolution? Is this for a year? Does this need to be for a year? I'll ask people who know a lot more about it than I do. Mr. Surgis?
Sylvia, can you chime in on this? I believe this just mimics with the Blue Cross Blue Shield contract dates.
Good morning, everyone. So Blue Cross Blue Shield is giving us $15,000 for an employee assistance program. We currently have an employee assistance program, so I've asked Michael Baker and his team to see if we can just stay with who is currently providing our employee assistance program and just utilize the funding towards that so that we can just do a lateral move. And the time frame is yet to be determined, so it isn't within our knowledge of what that time frame would be, but I believe it is exactly the same time frame as we have for June 30th of 2019 or July 1st of 2019 to June 30th of 2020.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Wetzel. Okay. Should we be clear in the intention and the passing as far as this is for the next year, $15,000 over the next year? Is it implicit? I'll ask anybody who, again, knows the insurance field a lot better than I do. Do we need to say it's a year, or is this just fine? Could you rise, please, if you're going to speak?
I think we would be fine, but Joe, I would be happy to modify the motion on this to include that.
There's no reason to modify the motion or the resolution.
Okay, if there's any question later on, we'll rely on that statement. So, thank you. So we have a motion and a second. Clerk, call the roll.
Ellen. Barrero. Davis. Fraz. Hanson. Holscheit. Iqbal. Kenyon. Caius. Copey. Leonard. Lewis. Martin. Molina. Sanchez. Shefflo. Silva. Sterrett. Surgis. Thomas. Weber. Wegman. Winnicke. That passes.
Okay, the motion passes. Again, I think that many of us appreciate the progress that has been made this year in that one of the things accomplished is to get back on our own as far as this decision goes rather than going through IPBC. Number 19-136, may I have a motion and a second to approve supplemental fiscal year 2019 budget adjustment and authorize the execution of collective bargaining agreement for building management maintenance and janitor bargaining unit. So moved by Mr. Copey, second by Ms. Allen. Any discussion? Ms. Thomas, would you rise, please?
I have some questions related to this that involve some information from our finance director that I don't believe can be shared in open session. So I was wondering if we could postpone this until after executive session.
With the indulgence of the board, what we would do is we'll include that specific item, financial information, within the call for the executive session when we do that a couple of pieces along on the agenda. So is it all right if we put this until after the closed session? Okay, I see no objection. And then finally, number 19-137, this was placed on the agenda just in case conclusion came. It did not, so we'll table this until the next regular board meeting next month. As far as appointments, may I have a motion and a second to approve the appointment of Chris Caius to the Flood Control Commission, Fox River Watershed Public Act 100-730. So moved by Ms. Sterrett, second by Mr. Hanson. Any discussion? If not, clerk, call the roll.
Allen. Barrero. Davis. Fraz. Hanson. Holscheit. Iqbal. Kenyon. Caius. Abstain. Okay. Very good. Copey. Leonard. Lewis. Martin. Molina. Sanchez. Shefflo. Silva. Sterrett. Surgis. Thomas. Weber. Wegman. Winnicke. That passes.
Okay, motion passes. May I have a motion and a second to go into executive session to discuss the release of closed session minutes and financial matters related to the collective bargaining agreement for building management maintenance and janitor bargaining. So moved by Mr. Fraz, second by Dr. Iqbal. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, nay. Ayes have it. I'd entertain a motion and a second to go into closed session to talk about all collective bargaining agreement issues. So do we have a motion? So moved by Mr. Copey, second by Mr. Hanson. Any discussion? Okay. I would encourage folks to, on the board, that when we're talking about things that have to do with millions of dollars of taxpayer money, that discussion appropriately belongs in the open, not behind closed doors. That's my comment. I hope I've made my opinion clear. Okay. Clerk, call the roll.
Allen? Barrero? Davis?
Yes.
Braz?
Yes.
Hanson?
Yes.
Iqbal?
No.
Kenyon?
Yes.
Caius?
Yes.
Copey? Leonard?
Yes.
Lewis? Martin?
Yes.
Molina? Sanchez?
Yes.
Shefflo?
Yes.
Silva? Yes. Starrett?
Yes.
Surgis?
No.
Thomas?
Yes.
Weber?
No.
Wegman? Yes. Winicki? Passes.
Okay, the motion passes. Excuse me, sorry. We're going to go into closed session now to talk about collective bargaining agreements. Okay, can the clerk refresh my memory? Do we have a motion and a second to approve 19-136?
We do not.
Okay. May I have a motion and a second? Well, first of all, we're back in open session. May I have a motion and a second to approve 19-136, which approving supplemental fiscal year 2019.
You know what? I'm sorry, I take that back. We do. We have Copey and we have Allen.
If
Oh, no,
Copey.
you know what? No, that was to hold over after closed session. No, we don't have formal.
All right.
Good.
No problem.
Sorry.
Then I'd like to call for a motion and a second.
Excuse me, Chairman, sorry. Discovered that the contract was 5 years, 4 years, and that's the date of this meeting. But also, we don't know, according to the information that we received on the agenda for the day, where the percent kicks in, what dates, we don't know what dates. So I was hoping we would table this clarification.
First of all, when you say 5 years, when you count them out, 19, 20, 21, 22. That's 4 years, if I'm not mistaken, but I'm not reading perhaps what you're reading.
CDA between the county and policemen's benefits, labor committee, PLC, dated December 1st, 2017 through December 31st, 2022. That's a 5 year.
Point of information? What are we talking about? I'm sorry.
Okay, I've called for a motion and a second. I think, how about if we handle that under the discussion? We'll handle that as clarifications. Once we have a motion to give our employees those raises in the building and facilities area, do we have a motion and a second, and then we'll go to discussion? So moved by Ms. Allen, second by Mr. Shefflo. Now, excuse me.
There was a motion actually for 1936.
Oh, okay, good.
It was Copey and it was Allen.
Okay, would you like to withdraw your motion? Okay, so those are off the table. Ms. Allen, off the table. Okay, so now when I call for the motion, it'll be Ms. Allen and Mr. Shefflo for the record. Okay? Okay, let's see. Mr. Shefflo.
I think State Attorney Ehrman explained this, that it's 2, 2, 2, and 2 going forward from the date of ratification in late 18. But do you take the first, do you go back and pick up the year after the expiration of the last contract? Is that the answer to the 5 years?
Is it a 4-year contract or a 5-year contract is the simple statement of that question.
The simple statement is the resolution reads, the effective dates of the contract are December 1st, 2017 through December 31st, 2022. I would take that to be 5 years. The raises, however, do not occur on December 1st, 2017. The first raise occurs on November 1st, 2018. And that would be a 2% raise. The second raise occurs on January 1st, 2020, and that is also a 2% raise. The third raise occurs on January 1st, 2021. That is a 2% raise. Effective January 1st, 2022, that is a 2% raise. There are stipends also that would go into effect. $200 payable on the next regular payday that follows the full pay period after the county board ratifies the successor CBA. $200 payable on or before January 15, 2020. $200 payable on or before January 15, 2021. $200 payable on or before January 15, 2022.
Mr. Scheffler.
I think that answers that question, but is it also true that this contract was the result of re-engagement between our negotiators and their negotiators after the December?
This particular contract was not a subject of the December resolution. It was not included in that resolution.
Okay. Thank you.
Other thoughts or comments? Mr. Hanson.
Based on everything we're going through right now, is there a chance to eyeball this so we all are on the exact same page before we vote on it? Is this the contract that was provided on April the 2nd?
Yes, it is.
And has anyone else reviewed it? Anyone? Any board member here? I hope that someone will make a motion to table it so we can absorb this and not go through what we're going through back to December. Thank you.
Okay, so Mr. Hanson makes a motion to table the ratification approval of this contract for the building and maintenance folks. Do you have a date certain? Would you like within a certain period of time? Or just have that motion?
So a motion to table would stay on the table and until there's a motion to take it off the table. So you could do that at the next board meeting.
We tabled it to talk about it in exec, right? And then
No, there was a motion to move this to consideration until after the closed session this morning. If you're making a motion to table 19-136 and there's a second and that motion to table passes, it would effectively kind of stay on the table until there's a motion to take it off the table. You could do that at the next county board meeting.
I thought we were discussing the Kane contract.
Aye.
We're talking about 19-136.
Okay, so no motion to table. So we're still at the point that we have a motion and a second to approve what's been ratified by the union. I've mentioned that I'm ready to execute. Ms. Molina.
Thank you, Chairman Lawson. Just by a show of hands, did the Labor Committee...
We're not calling for...
Okay.
You can make a comment.
Sure. I'm assuming the Labor Committee reviewed this contract and had no questions. Doug, you're on the Labor Committee. Matt, you're on the Labor Committee. Drew, you're on the Labor Committee. Was this reviewed in Labor Committee? You're not? You just go some of the meetings. Okay. John, was this reviewed during Labor Committee? And Mo, have you had a chance to review the wage increases and make sure you don't have any questions regarding this? I just want to make sure we're all on the same page. I don't want to get in the weeds, and I want this to go smoothly. So if no one has any objections and we're good to go, I don't want this to be rescinded. I don't want this to be postponed. I don't want this to be re-engaged. So, Mr. Chairman, are you comfortable with this?
I am.
You are? Okay. Mo, are you comfortable?
We don't, we understand the comment that you're making. Other questions, comments? If not, clerk, call the roll.
Okay. Allen? Aye. Barrero? Yes. Davis? Yes. Fraz?
Yes.
Hanson?
Yes.
She's not here. Iqbal?
Yes.
Kenyon?
Yes.
Caius?
Yes.
Copey? Leonard?
Yes.
Lewis? Oh, she's not here. Martin?
Yes.
Molina? Yes. Sanchez?
Yes.
Sheflo?
Yes.
Silva? Yes. Sterrett? Yes. Surges? Thomas? Okay. And Weber?
Yes.
Wegman? He's gone too. Wonecki? Oh, passes.
Okay, motion passes. May I have a motion and a second to approve the release of closed session minutes as outlined in Exhibit A? So moved by Mr. Kenyon, second by Mr. Fraz. Any thoughts, or excuse me, clerk, call the roll.
This is really bad. Does somebody have an extra sheet? Sorry, I ran out. Here. Okay, this is for closed session approval. I'm sorry, who motioned and second?
We had Mr. Kenyon was first and Mr. Fraz was second.
Okay, sorry about this, guys. Ellen? Aye. Barrero? Yes. Davis?
Yes.
Fraz? Yes. Hanson?
Yes.
Iqbal? Kenyon?
Yes.
Caius? Yes. Copey? Yes. Leonard? Yes. Martin? Yes. Molina? Yes. Sanchez?
Yes.
Sheflo?
Yes.
Silva?
Yes.
Sterrett?
Yes.
Surges?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Weber?
Yes.
Wegman's not here, and neither is Wodnicki. It passes.
Motion passes. Thank you very much. Under presentations discussion, approval of the date for the May 2019 calendar, we have our next board meeting is scheduled for May 7th. According to our ordinances, it is supposed to be the second Tuesday. That is actually the first Tuesday. I appreciate Mr. Davis' eagle eyes bringing that to our attention. This would give, action today would give us enough notice and established by the board. We have a couple of choices. We could either move it to the actual second Tuesday, and in that case, I think that we'd have to move 10 other meetings also to have those come after those meetings. Not necessarily, but for the flow of work that would have to happen. Or we can say that it's the will of this board that we meet next on May 7th as a board. So.
You want a motion?
Yes, thank you.
I would move that we meet on May 7th.
Okay, so Mr. Kenyon moves, Mr. Sanchez seconds. All those in favor say aye. Oh, excuse me. Question, comment, Mr. Davis.
Since 2003, I had to build a schedule around something that was etched in stone in my life. It was the second Tuesday of the month. It's my knowledge this would be the first time that we have deviated from that. So, no precedent setting.
Yes.
Don't do it again.
Okay. Yes. Thank you, Mr. Davis. Okay. Let's take a roll call on that then.
Oh, roll call. Allen? Barrero? Davis? Hanson? Iqbal?
Yes.
Kenyon?
Yes.
Caius?
Yes.
Copey? Leonard? Martin? Molina? Sanchez?
Yes.
Sheflo? Silva? Sterrett? Surges? Thomas? Weber? And that's it, and it passes. 3 nays.
Okay. Motion passes. I do have a program, but I think I'm going to delay it. You were going to enjoy it too. It was a multimedia extravaganza. So, And it addressed a lot of what we talked about in closed session. It was going to be in front of God and country, but we'll defer that to another time when we don't have people showing the signs of fatigue. So, exactly. Okay, with that, may I have a motion and a second to adjourn? So moved by Mr. Kenyon, second by Mr. Davis. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Ayes have it.